Smaller cases and colourful dials are two of the hottest trends in watches right now, which is something that clearly isn't lost on US microbrand NODUS. This new model, the Unity, has a 36.5mm case and is available in topaz blue or rose pink. But is the Unity all style over substance, or does this small watch deserve to be a big hit? Let's find out. So if you're new here and you've landed on the channel looking for videos on how to wire up a light fitting or solve your kid's Rubik's Cube, then greetings, my name's Simon, and I mostly talk about watches. If you like watches too, then do us both a favour, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and be sure to leave a comment. I try to read and reply to every single one of them, and I get huge motivation from seeing this channel grow. So NODUS is a US microbrand that's been on my radar for quite a while, and I've heard really good things about them. But I haven't really had the chance to get hands-on with any of their stuff until now. They kindly sent over both versions of their latest model, the Unity, to check out, and I wanted to show you guys these two I wanted to show you these two watches. Rather than being influenced purely by the current trend for smaller watches, the guys at NODUS explained to me that their intention was to create a unique, everyday sports watch that could be worn and enjoyed by all. And the design is influenced by the colours and the textures found in nature. This Unity has a 36.5mm case in 316L stainless steel, with a matching stainless steel bracelet. It's 11.3mm thick, it has a lug-to-lug measurement of just 43.5mm, and the lug width is 20mm. The shape of the case is really nice, and while most of the surfaces are brushed, the sides feature these deep bevels top and bottom, which are polished and create an optical illusion of a much thinner case. The crystal is sapphire and heavily domed, with a decent amount of blue anti-reflective coating on the underside. It's a fixed bezel design, and the bezel insert is made from polished ceramic, so it shouldn't mark easily. And the colour of the bezel is matched to the colour of the dial on each version. That dial is just gorgeous and features a stamped sunray pattern that NODUS say was inspired by the textures found in nature, such as the iris of an eye or the flesh of a citrus fruit, and you can really see what they mean. It immediately reminded me of some of the textured dials that you see on models from SEIKO and GRAND SEIKO, and it turns out that both Wes and Cullen at NODUS are huge fans of the SEIKO brand, and by their own admission they took a great deal of influence from the way that the Japanese manufacturer uses texture to bring its dials to life. It's what I'd call a sandwich dial in that the indices are cut out, which adds real depth, and there's a white base layer under the dial that's coated in Swiss Superluminova. It's BGW9, which glows bright blue. The indices are framed in polished steel, and their triangular shape is reminiscent of other NODUS watches that I've seen. They're complemented by a sword-shaped handset. The hands actually feature two finishes, with both brushed and polished surfaces, which is really impressive, and I love the way that they catch the light. There's a date window at the 6 o'clock position, and I really like both the shape of it, which reminds me of the date windows you see on many vintage watches, but I also like the fact that they've colour matched the date wheel to the dial. The crown is at 3 o'clock, and it's quite chunky for the size of the case. But I quite like that. I like crowns that aren't too hard to grip, and it's also signed with the NODUS logo. Powering this watch is a Miyota 9015 movement, which is one of the higher end Miyotas. It's an automatic movement with a 42-hour power reserve, hacking, hand winding, and a quick set date function. What is impressive is that NODUS regulates each movement and tests it over a 2-week period on a time grapher before they ship the watch. So you can expect these to have a pretty reasonable accuracy straight out of the box. The stainless steel bracelet has this flat link design which looks really modern, and it tapers from 20mm at the lugs to 16mm at the clasp. The links are brushed on top and have high polished sides, and it's quick release too, so it'll be a breeze if you wanted to put this onto a strap. It also features what NODUS calls its Node X clasp, which has two push buttons to release it, It's milled and it has this pretty clever push-button micro-adjust system, which has 5 positions, and it gives it around 10mm of on-the-fly micro-adjustment. Now I've been wearing these watches on and off for the last couple of weeks, and during that time it's been pretty warm here in the UK, and I've found myself using that micro-adjust system a lot when I get warm and my wrist swells up. In that time I've been able to give them a really good road test, and overall there's a lot to like. Speaking of likes, hit that thumbs up button if you've got this far. Now at 36.5mm, some people are going to find these to be too small, but if you've been following the channel recently, you'll know that I've kind of got into smaller watches, particularly after trying that Tudor Black Bay 54, which is 37mm. And you'll probably also know that I've got pretty small wrists at just over 6¼ inches. I mean, I've seen grasshoppers with thicker wrists. So 36 to 39mm is probably about the perfect size range for me. This NODUS feels smaller than other watches that I own, but it doesn't feel that small. I mean, if you've got wrists that are 7½ inches or bigger, or if you just like big manly watches, then it's probably not for you. The colours are subjective too. I mean, I really like them. I mean, I found myself reaching for this blue one more often than the pink version, but that could just be because we're all socially conditioned into thinking that pink is a feminine colour, I guess. But tell me in the comments what you think of these colours, and I'd be really interested to know how many of you guys would wear a pink watch, or if you were given the choice whether you'd just play it safe and go for the blue version. Now in terms of plus points, that textured dial and the use of coloured ceramic in the bezel insert are really impressive, particularly for a watch that sells for $700 US. I mean, ceramic is notoriously difficult to work with when it comes to pigmentation. The amount and complexity of finishing on the dial and on the hands is way beyond what you'd expect to see from a microbrand watch at this price point. I mean, it's not far off Christopher Ward standards, which is a huge compliment, especially when you consider that Christopher Ward's models sell for several $100s more than this. Even the bracelet is really nicely finished, and as I've already said, that micro-adjust system works really well. Any gripes? Well, there might not be any sharp edges on this bracelet, but where the logo has been engraved on the crown, it's really sharp. I mean, look, it might not be sharp enough to cut your skin, but it certainly could well catch on clothing. And I found after a couple of days of wearing the watch that I ended up with this fairly sore patch of skin on the back of my hand from where the crown had been rubbing against it. And it's the same on both of these watches. I mean, it could just be a bad batch of crowns, though these are also early press samples, so this may well be something that NODUS has already addressed. I'd also like to have seen NODUS use a better movement. I mean, this myota is definitely a step up from the SEIKO movements that they've used in many of their other models. But after wearing these watches on and off for a couple of weeks, I'm left in a bit of doubt as to whether the power reserve is really as long as stated. And when it comes to the winding action, you certainly can't describe it as being buttery smooth. But with all that said, I imagine using something like a Sleater movement would have certainly added a couple of $100s to the price. But guys, tell me what you think of this NODUS Unity in the comments. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and why not check out this one or this one next.